Sarah never thought a quiet Sunday afternoon could alter the course of her life. The sun was bright that morning, casting golden reflections on the gentle waves as she loaded the back seat of her small SUV with a picnic basket, towels, and a bright yellow beach umbrella. Ethan, her 8-year-old son, was already buzzing with excitement, clutching his little blue bucket and shovel like they were treasures. "Mom, are we going to stay until sunset?" he asked, his eyes wide with the anticipation only a child could carry. "If we can," Sarah smiled, fastening his seatbelt. "But remember, we've got sunscreen and snacks this time." The drive to the beach was filled with Ethan's chatter about school, the superhero comic he'd just read, and the sandcastle he planned to build. Sarah listened, half smiling, half wistful. Life had been hard the past 2 years. After the divorce, she'd worked tirelessly to keep things stable for Ethan. Most days, she felt like she was holding her life together with invisible threads. When they arrived, the salty air wrapped around her, warm and familiar. The beach stretched endlessly, with only a few early visitors scattered across the sand. She set up their spot, spreading the blanket while Ethan immediately ran toward the water's edge. She watched him, barefoot, squealing as the waves kissed his ankles. His laughter mingled with the sound of the ocean, and Sarah felt a strange lump in her throat. It had been so long since she'd seen him this free. "Mom, come here," Ethan shouted, waving frantically. Sarah rolled her jeans up and walked to him. "What is it?" "There's a crab. Look." He pointed to a small sand crab scuttling sideways. Ethan crouched low, studying it as though it was the most important discovery in the world. Sarah knelt beside him, the wind playing with her hair, and for a moment, she felt like the weight she'd been carrying lightened. They spent the morning collecting shells, chasing little fish in the shallow water, and building an elaborate sandcastle with towers and a moat. Passers-by smiled at them. A few even stopped to admire Ethan's work. It was just after lunch, when the tide had started to rise, that it happened, the moment that would change everything. Ethan had run ahead toward the rock formations at the far end of the beach. Sarah followed, careful on the wet sand, when she heard a sharp cry. "Mom!" Her heart lurched. She sprinted the last few feet and found Ethan frozen, pointing toward the water. Just beyond the rocks, a small golden retriever puppy was struggling against the current, yelping in panic. Without thinking, Sarah dropped her phone and shoes, wading into the water. The waves were stronger here, pulling at her legs, but she pushed forward until she reached the terrified puppy. She scooped it up, holding it close as she made her way back to shore. Ethan threw his arms around both her and the dog the second she reached him. "You saved him, Mom." The puppy trembled in her arms, but soon began licking her face. Sarah looked up to see a man running toward them, tall, with sun-kissed skin, and a worried expression. "That's mine, oh my gosh, thank you," he panted, taking the dog gently from her. I turned away for just a second. "It's okay," Sarah said, still catching her breath. "He's safe now." The man introduced himself as Daniel, a local who walked the beach every morning. They ended up talking for a while as Ethan played with the puppy, whose name, fittingly, was Sandy. What surprised Sarah was how easy it felt to talk to him. She learned he'd grown up in the area, worked as a marine biologist, and volunteered with a rescue group for sea animals. They laughed when Sandy kept trying to bury Ethan's shovel in the sand. When the afternoon waned, Daniel offered to treat them to ice cream at a small stand near the boardwalk. Sarah almost declined, but Ethan's pleading eyes made the decision for her. That small gesture turned into a long conversation. They talked about everything: favorite books, the best spots to watch the sunset, and the quiet loneliness that comes after big life changes. For Sarah, it was the first time in years she'd felt truly seen. Before they parted, Daniel said, "I usually walk Sandy here every Sunday morning. If you and Ethan are around, maybe we could meet again?" Sarah hesitated only for a second before nodding. Over the next few weeks, their Sunday beach mornings became a tradition. Sometimes they brought breakfast sandwiches, other times they just walked, letting Ethan and Sandy race ahead. Sarah found herself looking forward to those mornings, not just for Daniel's company, but because she saw Ethan smiling more, talking more, coming alive in ways she hadn't realized he'd been missing. Months passed, and with them came small changes Sarah hadn't expected. She started painting again, something she'd given up after the divorce. She began laughing more. She noticed Ethan was sleeping better, more confident at school. She realized that day on the beach had not just saved a puppy, it had saved pieces of herself she thought were gone. One evening, as the three of them sat watching the sunset, Ethan leaned against her and whispered, "Mom, this is the best year ever." Sarah's throat tightened. She looked at him, then at Daniel beside them, his hand resting lightly in the sand near hers. She realized that one ordinary day at the beach had started a ripple that changed the current of their lives. Sometimes, she thought, change doesn't come from planning or chasing it, it comes from moments you never see coming. And for Sarah, it all began with a sunny day, a little boy's laughter, and a puppy named Sandy.